My name is Natalie Moore, and I'm the chair of the Stratford and District Chamber of Commerce. We at the Chamber want to extend a heartfelt thank you to all of you for being here tonight. Your presence reflects the importance of informed discussion and civic engagement in our community. Just a housekeeping note, if you have a question sheet filled out, put your hand in the air and we'll come and get it for you. A special thank you to our candidates for stepping forward to share their vision and ideas to our audience, for your interest and participation, to our dedicated volunteers who have helped make this event possible, and to our sponsors for their generous support. It is my pleasure to introduce our moderator for the evening, Craig Thompson. Craig is an accomplished filmmaker, podcast host, producer with more than 30 years of experience in the international film and television industry. He is the president of Ball and Wren Entertainment, the Stratford-based company specializing in broadcast, digital media, community content production. His family connection to Stratford dates back to 1909, when his grandmother was in the first graduating class of the Stratford Normal School. Wow, Craig, you have a lot of experience. I need a minute to take a breath. Okay. His early experience working in Stratford at CJCS and the Beacon Herald laid the groundwork for a journalism career that took him from local newsrooms to covering national and international affairs in London, Toronto, Ottawa, the UK, Europe, and Washington, D.C. As a seasoned journalist and storyteller, Craig has a deep understanding of the issues that matter to the Stratford community. His ability to navigate complex discussions, ask insightful questions, and foster meaningful dialogue makes him a natural choice to moderate the 2025 electoral debate. With that, I'll turn it over to Craig to get us started. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Natalie. I want to thank the Stratford and District Chamber of Commerce for inviting me to moderate this all candidates event. I was thinking that this was a good timing tonight, even though it's cold and windy out there. If this were scheduled last Thursday, we wouldn't be seeing so many people here. So a winter campaign in an election is quite challenging, and the fact that all of you have come out tonight is terrific. But I want to leave you with a challenge when you leave here tonight. I was doing some research, and before in the previous provincial Perth Wellington riding, the voter turnout was 49.9%. That means that more than half of people can't be bothered to vote, don't want to vote, or don't think that their voice makes a difference. So I want everybody in this room to leave tonight, and those watching at home, to go out and tell 10 friends, your network of people, your friends, your family, your coworkers, and tell them why everybody's vote matters. And especially now, I never imagined that I would wake up one morning and find that my country, Canada, is under threat from one of our closest allies and neighbors. So I think that voting is more important than ever before. I'm just going to repeat some of the things that Natalie had said, some of the housekeeping things. We have 3 questions to open the debate that have been provided by members of the Chamber of Commerce. Then we'll have about 40 or 50 minutes for questions from the audience, which will be handed up on the stage. And we're going to do our best to get as many questions as possible, but due to time limitations, we reserve the right to bundle questions together if they're similar. It's my pleasure now to introduce the candidates who've joining us this evening. Ashley Fox, representing the Liberal Party. We have Ian Morton, representing the Green Party. We have Matthew Ray, representing the Progressive Conservative Party. And we have Jason Davis, representing the NDP. While the candidates take their seats, I've been asked to read some prepared bios so you have a bit of background on each candidate. Ashley Fox is a registered practical nurse dedicated to improving patient care and navigating the healthcare system. Born in Harriston and now living in Palmerston with her husband Jeff and daughter Aria, Ashley has built a career in geriatric care, serving as a charge nurse and director of care in an assisted living facility. She later transitioned to community health care as a nurse case manager and outreach coordinator at Promise Home Care. Beyond her clinical work, Ashley mentors future healthcare professionals as a course instructor at Conestoga College and served 2 terms on the College of Nurses of Ontario board, including as vice president RPN. She also advocates for PSW regulation and supports community initiatives like Parkinson's Society Southwestern Ontario and Community Living North Perth. Passionate about patient advocacy, Ashley is committed to ensuring compassionate, high-quality care for all. Next, we have Ian Morton. Ian Morton is a dedicated educator, community leader, and Green Party candidate for Perth Wellington. A teacher with the Avon-Maitland District School Board for 25 years, he has served as chair of Stratford's Energy and Environment Advisory Committee and is deeply engaged in local issues and committed to finding a balance between the environment and the economy. In 2022, Ian ran for municipal office in Stratford, where he connected with voters on key concerns like affordability, housing, and health care. His decision to run provincially was driven by personal experience. After battling throat cancer in 2024, he vowed to take action on the issues that matter. For Ian, every day is a blessing, and he's determined to make a difference. Next, we have Matthew Ray. Matthew is the current MPP for Perth Wellington and serves as the parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Raised on his family's dairy farm near Harriston, Matthew developed a strong work ethic and a deep commitment to community service from an early age. A graduate of Norwell District Secondary School, the University of Guelph, and the Diplomatic Academy of Vienna, Matthew's career has spanned politics, education, and public service. Before being elected in 2022, he worked for an educational not-for-profit focused on STEM and entrepreneurship, and served in various roles for local MPs and MPPs. In 2024, he introduced the Growing Agritourism Act, the first of its kind law supporting agritourism operators across Ontario. Passionate about rural development and public policy, Matthew is dedicated to strengthening communities. He and his wife Megan live in Mitchell, where he enjoys the outdoors with their dog Athena. And finally, we have Jason Davis. Jason Davis is a hard-working community leader, small business owner, and Ontario NDP candidate for Perth Wellington. As a diesel technician in the agriculture industry, he understands the challenges facing working families and rural communities. Jason is deeply committed to affordable housing, public health care, child care, and education, priorities he has championed as co-founder of the Stratford Affordable Housing Alliance and director of Mikinak Community Land Trust. A husband and father, Jason knows firsthand the struggles families face in today's economy. Beyond advocacy, Jason owns the Stratford Comic Shop, where he shares his passion for comics by giving them away to kids at local events. Now, each candidate has 2 minutes for some opening remarks, and we will start with Ashley Fox. Ashley.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you very much for attending. As Craig had mentioned earlier, the best part of being involved in an election is having your voice heard, but it's also about engagement and being informed in how you vote. You have my bio information, and I might be a familiar face to some. I ran in the 2022 election as the Ontario Liberal candidate. 2025 is a unique situation. Not only is it cold, we're in snowbanks and trying to get people out to vote in February, but I had a unique situation come to me. I was asked to run because the people of Perth Wellington, across party lines, across Perth Wellington, had asked me to put my voice forward, to advocate for them for healthcare, affordability, and housing. And I answered the call. So I look forward to learning more about you this evening, and hopefully you'll learn more about me.
Thank you, Ashley. Next, we have Ian Morton from the Green Party.
Thank you very much. My name is Ian Morton. I'm going to repeat a little bit of stuff here, but I've been a teacher for 25 years in and around Stratford. I currently teach in St. Mary's, Ontario. I live in Stratford with my wife and my daughter. I volunteer constantly, which my wife obviously just absolutely loves. I coach track in Stratford, St. Mary's, and at the University of Guelph. I'm active environmentally, as you heard previously, serving as the chair of Stratford's Energy Environment Committee, and also a member of the Active Transportation Committee. I've served on my union's local executive. I've served as president of 2 different nonprofit organizations. Through my family, my career, and my volunteering, I've had the wonderful opportunity to develop deep connections to the people of Stratford, St. Mary's, and Perth County. We are currently living in unprecedented times, certainly a February election. There are so many serious issues, though, that are affecting us, which is why we see all of you here tonight. It cannot continue. We are at this place right now for a reason. We have unfortunately trusted our votes to the wrong people. The Greens are a thoughtful and caring party with strong policies for improving the lives of people across this province, putting you and your community first. A strong party that works to create innovation, strengthen people's lives, and connect people and places together, all while working to solve the complex issues that face us. I'm looking forward to being able to share the Green approach with the issues that face us here in Perth, Wellington, and in Stratford, and across the province. The Green Party is full of caring, considerate, and logical solutions that put the people first and prioritize you and your community. I very much appreciate the opportunity tonight to share who I am and why you should vote for me, and of course, our strong Green policies that will help you and those that you care about, and move Ontario forward toward a better future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian. Next to Matthew Ray.
Thanks, Craig, and thank you everyone for being here this evening, especially tonight of all nights. I understand there's a hockey game at 8 p.m., so if some of you sneak out, I will not hold it against you, but I appreciate you all coming to participate in our democracy, and thank you to the Stratford Chamber of Commerce and the sponsors, the businesses that help sponsor this event, and the realtors who are timekeepers this evening. As well, and Craig, obviously, for him stepping into the MC role. I'm sure you're going to do a way better job than Eddie Matthews as well. You can tell Eddie I said that. But in all seriousness, thank you for being here this evening. I look forward to your questions this evening. It's been my distinct honor and pleasure to represent you at Queen's Park for the past almost 3 years. Since 2022, working together with our municipalities and local organizations, we have been able to attract over $200 million net new provincial funding to Perth Wellington, whether that's in healthcare, education, and infrastructure. If I am re-elected on February 27th, and if the good people of Perth Wellington decide to send me back to Queen's Park to represent them, I promise to continue speaking up for everyone in Perth Wellington, working to keep costs down, continuing to invest and rebuild our rural communities, and protect our small businesses and businesses from Trump's tariffs south of the border. I look forward to your questions this evening. Thank you.
Thanks. I was going to say, if Eddie were here, I was going to say I have big shoes to fill, but my shoes are bigger. Next we have Jason Davis.
Hello, everyone. Right off the bat, I want to apologize to the people of Minto, Mapleton, Palmerston, and Mount Forest for not being able to attend last night's debate. I currently have a fever of 102.5, so tonight is going to be interesting. This is my first time leaving bed in 48 hours. We're going to hear about a lot of topics today, but it's important to remember that this election, our public health care is on the ballot. Saving our post-secondary education is on the ballot. Affordability and building the right kinds of housing is on the ballot, as much as this election was called based on the threat from the south. The Ontario government hasn't been dealing with Ontario needs for a long time, and those needs need to be addressed now during this election. In 2022 alone, we underfunded healthcare in this province by $12.3 billion. That is absolutely unacceptable. We've underfunded education by $1,500 per student this year. That's over $3 billion. So when you get your $200 checks in the mail, just know that came out of the pockets of our children. We have a 4-year wait list right now for childcare in this municipality. We have a lot of problems today that we need to talk about, and I'm looking forward to talking about them, although with my fever and that right now, I'm probably going to be pretty brief and to the point on these topics.
All right.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move into the question part of the evening. Each candidate has 1 minute, and I'm relying on the timekeepers to keep everybody on time. Starting at the far end, the first question. If elected, what specific policies will you implement to support small businesses in our region, ensuring that they remain competitive and have access to the resources they need to grow? Starting with Jason and moving up the line. 1 minute.
Yeah, so for small businesses, especially with the threat from the south, we're looking at removing barriers for interprovincial trade, as well as looking at a provincial and federal joint task force that would provide funding to any small businesses and employees that are being threatened by tariffs and having their employment threatened by tariffs. We will also, we're also going to be looking at removing the cap on management systems for the farming industry. And I believe that's all we have for small businesses at this point.
Okay. Matthew?
Thank you for the question. Very important question as we're dealing with the threats south of the border around tariffs for our small businesses and businesses in general. I know when our government formed government in first term in 2018, we cut the small business tax rate. Also, we have in 2022 and now this year in 2025, when a surplus in a WSIB exists, we provide that back to the small businesses so that they can invest that back into their employees and companies. For example, in 2025, it will be over $2 billion total. An average company of 50 people under their employment roles will see $46,000 in 2025 coming back to them so they can reinvest in their businesses. Today, the Premier announced we will recognize all work certificates around interprovincial trade, and I'm sure it will come up often. It came up in last night's debate. We will also allow free flow of goods to the greatest extent that we are able to at the provincial level. Thank you.
Ian?
So we have a lot planned for small businesses. They're the cornerstones of our communities. While we rely on large business, obviously, for the provincial economy, our communities themselves are focused on the individuals who live here and own businesses in them. So we're going to increase the employer health tax exemption to $1.5 million for small business to create more jobs. Implement standardized leases to ensure that between leases, small businesses are treated fairly. We're going to work with insurance providers to develop more affordable commercial insurance programs. We're going to remove red tape. We're going to support new buyers and employees to purchase existing businesses so we can keep our business community strong. But we also need to talk about our farmers. They are absolutely crucial, and we have a ton of local policies and platform ideas to help our local farmers and keep our food local and strengthen the farms that provide so much for us. Thank you.
Ashley?
I'm going to echo that, and the small businesses are a strong supporter of our economic growth. And so we would cut the small business tax in half. We would also look at increasing the threshold from $500,000 to $600,000 so that we can look at new hires, machinery, things that small businesses need to grow and expand. And then in addition to that, we get back to the basics of assisting with healthcare, education, infrastructure, things that we really need to get right for our small businesses to continue to grow and succeed in the communities they're in.
Now we move to the open round. Any candidate can speak up on this topic. What changes, if any, would you advocate to the current tax structure, grant programs, or the reduction of red tape to directly benefit local businesses? Anybody can respond. Matthew?
Thank you for the question. It's very important. Our government has established a Ministry of Red Tape Reduction to achieve that goal and achieve those savings for our small businesses. We are now saving small businesses and the people of Ontario over $1 billion, and we will continue to do that to ensure that we streamline processes for small businesses in Ontario to ensure they can continue to do what they do best and create that product, sell that service to people, ensuring they are strong for the threat that is coming, unfortunately, and which is Trump's tariffs. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ashley?
It's bringing back the small businesses to the table to have that conversation. I'm very familiar with the red tape initiatives that are done under the province, but I don't know a single business that has benefited from them, Craig.
Ian?
Our businesses are only as strong as our communities, and as they're a cornerstone, they also rely on all the people here. So when we're talking about small businesses, we need to make sure that the people of our community are cared for and have the means to participate in that economy. So there are huge issues. I have hundreds of policy statements here that impact directly our most vulnerable, people experiencing poverty, people that don't have a home. So they're the people that we need to actually include in our economy, and that is going to buoy our small business sector immensely. And we have to get all of these issues right, of housing, affordability, healthcare, making sure that our nurses are paid the same here as they are in Toronto, so that they're staying in the communities that they want to live in, making sure that we have more family doctors so people are healthy and happy and can spend in the economy. This is a business question for sure, but it's also a community and people question, and we need to make sure we're caring for all of our community so that they can participate in the community.
Thank you. Jason?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think it's really irresponsible to be talking about tax cuts right now. Small business rate is only 3.2% up until you make $500,000. We currently have $429 billion in debt in this province. We spend $14.5 billion a year on just the interest on that debt. That's more than $1 billion a month on interest. Looking at making tax cuts to a tax rate that's only 3.2% is incredibly irresponsible at a time where we can't afford to feed our families and keep our hospitals open.
The next question.
Okay. I'd love to say one more thing.
Okay.
Yeah. I have lots to say, so I won't bore you, I promise. We have, to piggyback on Jason's comment here, we have, these issues, and the irresponsible spending isn't limited to, I don't think we're spending irresponsibly on our business community. Tax cuts need to be measured and careful and make sure that they're targeting the right places. The Greens are proposing a tax cut for people that are earning $65,000 or less, so that they can have another approximately $1,700 in their bank account per year, so that they can participate in the economy, so they can buy the groceries they need, pay the rent they need.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll try to limit one response per question, but thank you for that.
I was the exception. Thank you. I appreciate that.
The next question has to do with infrastructure, and we're going to start with Ashley and move down. What commitments will you make to improve infrastructure, things like transportation, transit in our region to better support business growth, labor mobility, attract investment, and ensure rural areas remain competitive? And I'll repeat that if anybody else wants the question again. It's a long list. So, infrastructure in our region to support better business growth, attract investment, and ensure rural areas remain competitive.
Apologize, I'm going to write that because it is a bit. Well, the first one for transportation is just making sure that we have access to reliable transportation, especially in our rural part of the riding where it's a little bit limited. We need to have tracking measures, and we need to talk to the public. I know the PC Connect Rural Route is going to be losing its funding, and after talking to some in the community, it's a significant loss. They use it in that rural route significantly. But in terms of investment, it's working with our hospitals, working on our roads. The province for far too long has stepped back and has not been working on the paying for the provincial jurisdiction. They've really downloaded it to the municipalities. So there's been a lot of comments in regards to property taxes and increases and things that really the province can step in and intervene by paying for their own. Mm-hmm.
Ian, do you want to repeat the question?
I apologize, I need you. So
Okay.
repeat one more time for me. Thank
What
you.
commitments will you make to improve infrastructure in our region? That refers to transportation and things like that, to better support business growth, labor mobility, attracting investment, and ensure rural areas remain competitive?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're, with the exception of Stratford and a few communities, we are a rural riding, and we need to take care of all of our constituents, all the people that live here. I've had the conversation with 2 different people today about transit options in our rural areas and how, you know, how much they rely on PC Connect. And, you know, with the loss of that, people are in jeopardy of not being able to get to their jobs. They're going to have to move out of the communities they love. There has to be significant investment in transit to create like transit hubs so that we can serve geographical areas, make sure people are able to get to and from work. We're in an affordability crisis. People maybe can't afford to have a vehicle of their own, and we need to make sure that they still have a means to put food on the table for their family. The Greens are going to actually implement a $2 billion a year climate adaptation fund that's going to go directly to municipalities to help with to make their infrastructure more resilient. There's so many needs in our communities. We're gonna also deal with all of the downloading of fees from the province to the municipalities and make sure municipalities are taken care of.
Matthew.
Thank you for the very important question. I want to apologize for all the construction you've been having in the city of Stratford the past 2+ years. The Erie Street redevelopment, the Huron Street, the Ontario Street redevelopment was all provincial funding with our municipal partner, in this case, the city of Stratford, through the Connecting Links program. Millions of dollars have flown to the city of Stratford. Millions of dollars is more as needed. Our government has committed to investing an additional $2 billion in the Housing Enabling Wastewater Infrastructure Fund, which will help unlock more homes in the city of Stratford and across Perth, Wellington. It's something I hear often from our municipal partners, is they need the infrastructure to support housing development, small business development, larger business development, and we'll be there if re-elected. PC government will continue to make those significant investments. We have a very ambitious infrastructure plan across Ontario, $200 billion, but I want to ensure some of that flows to rural Ontario. Thank you.
And Jason?
Yeah, those investments sound great, but if we keep building the wrong kind of housing, it's not really helping anyone. So what the NDP has proposed to do is upvote the cost of public transportation to being 50% from the province and 50% from the municipalities. That means that operations like Stratford Connect and our public busing will be 50% responsible from the municipalities. We also committed to returning the EV rebate, as well as installing more EV chargers in public places instead of taking them out. And yeah.
We're very lucky here in Stratford because we have high-speed broadband and fiber optic network. We're the haves. I'd like to know about broadband specifically, what each of you would do to encourage the expansion of broadband across the riding. Do you want to start?
I'd love to start if you're okay with that.
Okay, you can start this time.
I'm gonna get this information
1
out
minute.
to you guys. So in our platform, we're gonna make rural broadband an essential service. People rely on the internet for so much, including their jobs, including their businesses, and we're gonna make sure that that's an essential service. And we're gonna roll out high-speed access across the province. We're going to use regulations to level the playing field for our small local internet providers that create jobs in communities that are providing services that we need, so that they're able to be successful and strong business members of our community. And enact policies to ensure that affordable access for high-speed internet is available for those people that are experiencing difficulties with affordability, to make sure that this is truly accessible for all. Thank you.
Ashley, you live in a rural part of the riding. Talk to us about your access and what broadband means to you.
We have some fiber optic in my area, but you know, hearing from people at the doors and on the phones, broadband internet is coming. It's coming a long way, but we're not there yet. It's still a concern. It impacts our agricultural community. It impacts education and small business. One of the things that's interconnected to it as well is the mobile, right? The mobile data and towers. We rely so much on phones, and we're not there yet in terms of Perth Wellington being at the table.
Matthew Ray.
I our government is committed to spending $4 billion, largest investment in Canadian history, to get everyone access to high-speed internet in Ontario, whether you live in Northern Ontario or all the way down to Point Pelee, the most southern point in Ontario. We are committed to ensuring that all those communities, rural and northern and urban, have access to high-speed internet. We have made significant investments locally. I think of the investments we've made with Quadro, Mornington, Whiteman, and the north end of the riding, $34 million across that area to connect more people to high-speed internet. More will need to be done, and we're committed to ensuring that we continue to make those investments for our small businesses, especially in those rural communities, so they can access both domestic and international markets. Thank you.
Okay, and Jason, you have 1 minute to respond to the broadband question.
Yep. So right off the bat, I'm going to start with canceling the deal with Elon Musk for $100 million. If you do the math on it, that deal costs us $6,600 per person. That internet only costs $349 a person to set up. So I don't know if we're buying influence or trying to buy our way into some more election interference from the owner of a bunch of companies, but going to tear that one up and instead invest in Telesat, which does the exact same thing but is a Canadian company. Outside of that, I would also like to look at making investments with other local providers. High-speed internet is obviously a necessity today, but like I said, the future is Telesat, and that is a Canadian company. I would like to see investment in having telesatellite communications done with a Canadian company.
The next topic on the agenda is labor. What is your plan to address the challenges facing the labor market in our riding? Labor shortages, specifically, how will you support business in recruiting skilled workers, enhancing job training programs, and ensuring housing availability to support workforce growth? And with this question, we're going to start at the far end and move this way. So Jason, you're first. Labor and challenges facing hiring and housing skilled workers.
Sure. Yeah, so the first problem with that is obviously housing. Our unemployment rate, I believe in 2022, was as low as 1.8%. That didn't account for people that are on maternal leave, paternal leave, sick leave, or other forms of leave that weren't actually actively looking for work. So when you're less than 1% unemployed, that's a dangerous number. The first step in getting a workforce here is getting housing built that people can actually afford. If you look at even in Waterloo, we have a development company from Stratford working for Habitat for Humanity, building homes for $350,000, yet the only thing we're building here is $800,000. We need to build affordable homes, and when we're talking about education, all of our universities are currently closing programs and declaring bankruptcy because we turned our universities into a Ponzi scheme, relying on international students to fund them. So maybe we should start funding our universities before they all close, because we just gutted the best education system in the world.
Matthew Ray.
Thank you for the very important question. We have set up a skills development fund. I think of a technical training group locally in Stratford and across a large swath of area that trains individuals in welding or metal fabrication, for example. This skills development fund, we are committing to spending an additional $1 billion in this fund. This is part of our response to the U.S. tariffs, ensuring that we are there for our workers and protecting them from the threats that may be coming from south of the border. It's also working with our trade unions to build training centers across Ontario. 13 private trade unions have endorsed the PC Party of Ontario and Premier Ford, historic number for a PC party, and demonstrates our willingness to work with everyone to ensure that we're training the next skilled force that can build Ontario for generations to come. Thank you.
Ian.
Yeah, this is tied directly to the working conditions that our people are experiencing, and the nonsensical nature of working for minimum wage and then not being able to pay rent and buy food and all these other things, right? So this is as much an affordability issue and a workplace environment issue as it is anything else. We do have several things planned. We're going to increase the minimum wage immediately to $20 an hour. We're going to implement 10 provincially legislated paid sick days for all and remove the requirement on our doctors to have extra administrative policies taken away their time from families to fill doctor's notes. We're gonna stop with the doctor's notes. And then we're gonna invest in an Ontario strategy to create more jobs and prosperity by making Ontario a global leader in the $2 trillion green economy. This is coming whether we like it or not, as much as, really?
1 minute.
I'm sure that was 10 seconds, but okay.
Okay, Ashley, 1 minute.
All right, I'll make it quick, I promise. It's a multi-complex issue, as they were saying, and so obviously, we look at the paid sick days that were cut, we look at minimum wage being held back. I pledged in 2022 to look at universal basic income. We need to respect living wages, and we need to be fair. That includes, rental, it includes affordability and various things. Interestingly enough, though, I didn't notice in the endorsements that the caring professions were involved. It's almost like the nurses, the educators, and the public sector were offended when you put their bargaining rights in question and when you use a notwithstanding clause for precedent. It's almost like it shouldn't have happened.
All right, we have quite a few questions from the floor, and I'm going to paraphrase several of them because some of them are quite similar. One of the hottest topics right now is protection of farmland. What are you going to do to protect our farmland from urbanization? And anybody can start. Ashley.
All right. Similar to what I've said in a previous debate, all eyes are on Wilmot. The Wilmot situation and what the farmland and how they're coping with that situation. There's a lack of transparency. There's a lack of accountability to our farming communities. We would respect boundaries, and we would look at working with our planners. Planners are a highly turnover job because the province is not respecting them, and we would respect their role.
Jason?
Sorry. So the first step in protecting our farmland is building within the municipality boundaries, and the best way to do that is to build the kind of housing we need. We don't need any more $800,000 McMansions that no one can afford. We need to build homes that people can afford to buy. We need to build deeply affordable rentals. We need to look at community land trusts. We need to look at co-ops. We need to look at all of the things we need there. And the NDP is committed, if elected, the Wilmot land will go back to the people of Wilmot and their farmers. I was there when they took their tractors and they drove to the Waterloo Regional Council meeting. I was there. It was a sight to see 80 tractors on the highway. If you were trying to get to work at that time, I'm sorry, but we were doing some strong stuff. We were there fighting for that, and we were there fighting the cuts to the mental health and addiction that were also done under Ford's reign.
Ian?
So we have a 59-page platform document fully costed where we have in writing all the things we're going to do. Still waiting for the other parties to actually do that. I have pages of what we're going to do for farmers, so I'm going to go super fast here. Reverse the MZOs. Wilmot expropriation cannot happen. We're going to do that immediately. We're going to freeze urban boundaries. We're building inside our cities on land that we have, building more density instead of out into urban sprawl. We're going to protect our farmers. Create an Ontario food belt to protect our food security and our local farmers. That's going to be crucial when we're facing Trump tariffs. Invest in local food hubs to support local farmers. Provide tax incentives for local food and beverage manufacturers. Establish food processing infrastructure so our food doesn't need to leave and come back. We're going to increase the provincial investment above what's happening in our ag tech and support innovation among our farmers. We're going to prioritize Ontario-grown food. We're going to introduce a provincial program to pay farmers for environmental actions they're doing on their farms to the land to improve the quality of our soil. I have it in writing.
All right. Time.
And you did it in a minute.
I missed a whole bunch.
Thank you for the very important question. Being raised on a farm, I can understand that perspective very well. The provincial government, through the most recent provincial planning statement, is taking a balanced approach, providing the municipalities with that discretion on where they want to grow and when. I know locally, working with all the municipalities that I have had the honor to represent at Queen's Park, they are very proactive at working with our federations of agriculture and our local agriculture community to identify potential areas for growth and what is not for growth, ensuring that we work together around those aspects. around the housing within urban boundaries. Our government brought in 3 as of right across Ontario, one of the first provinces in the country to do that, to allow some of that gentle density in, for example, the city of Stratford. I know a few ARUs, or accessory dwelling units, have come online because of those changes, ensuring we're streamlining those processes to get more of those affordable units on the market, rental market in particular. Thank you.
Have you gone, Ashley? Did you?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
everybody's replied,
sorry,
right?
I'm good, yeah.
I was just noticing, Ian, if you want to have a rebuttal, there's a closing comments at the end, and you'll all have a chance. So I encourage you
Absolutely.
to take notes and
Oh, yes,
respond to
I'm
that.
taking notes.
We have an aging population in this riding, many, many seniors. And a couple of the questions that have come forward here is, what are you and your party going to do to specifically help seniors and financially? And again, it's open to the first responder. So, Ashley.
First thing in priority to seniors is fix our healthcare and connect it to home care, connect it to primary care, connect our hospitals. Part of the issue that we're having is to be able to deliver care in people's homes and where they want to live. Obviously, we would prioritize community settings over for-profit long-term care, but still recognizing that there are some seniors that would benefit from supportive services and having them in place.
Who wants to go next? Jason? Yeah.
So the NDP is committed to now funding, let's say if you go take care of one of your senior elders, we are committed with now giving you funding for doing so. So if you're already doing the work of at-home care, we will pay you to continue to do that so that you're not losing wages and you can actually be compensated for what you're doing that our services are currently unable to keep up with. Another thing we're looking to do is we're going to invest in companies like Rehouse on a more broader provincial level. What they do is they go into seniors that are overhoused and incapable of using all of their home, and they help redesign their home for their mobility so that they can age in place. Age in place is an extremely important thing. It also can help bring up secondary dwelling units within the home so that they can afford to age in place and help deal with senior isolation. Thank you.
Matthew?
Thank you for the very important question. One thing, if re-elected, the PC government will continue to invest in the seniors active living, an additional $17 million. Since 2018, it's been $100 million across the province. Many local organizations take part in this, which provides an activity for those seniors in our community to remain active and part of their community as they age in place, as one of my colleagues mentioned. Also around, we have seen with the 3 as of right, nanny suites or granny suites, as they've commonly been referred to, come online for those individuals who have helped build their communities and are able to remain in those communities, is something we're focused on ensuring that is a reality in the years to come. Thank you.
Ian?
So yeah, housing is a great option. I have 12 pages of housing, additional units in homes, additional small homes in backyards, obviously building within cities, infill and increasing density, but specifically towards like long-term care and elders being able to age with grace at home. We are going to stop future investor-driven privatization, and we're going to reverse Ford's efforts to privatize our healthcare system, including long-term care. We saw horrible outcomes during the COVID pandemic, and those outcomes are not stopping. We're going to fix the staffing shortage, equal pay for nurses, equal pay for doctors, PSWs, wherever they are in the province, so that we can have people that we need in the communities we need them in. Mandate, so that everyone's paid appropriately, and we're going to build 48,000 nonprofit long-term care spaces by 2029, and we're going to phase out for-profit care completely.
Okay. All right, we have a question about tariffs. What will each of your parties do to build resilience in the small and medium-sized enterprise sector and the manufacturing sector to buffer against any negative impacts that the result of the tariffs that continue to be proposed by the United States? Anybody can start. Matthew.
This is one of the most common things I hear at the door, whether it's concern about how tariffs will impact the individual's job or how it will impact their family. Our PC government has been clear from the very beginning that we will be there to protect Ontario. Investments in the Skills Development Fund for retraining, as I alluded to in one of my previous answers. Also an additional $38 million for mobile training centers, which already exist, but essentially supercharging those situations if, God forbid, a factory has to shut down production temporarily. Ensuring that we become one of the most competitive places to do business, not only in Canada, but North America. We are competing on a global scale now. We cannot rely, obviously, on our southern neighbors, and so we are having to attract this investment. Investment has cooled because of the U.S. tariff threat, and so we are going to work hard to ensure that we continue to see that investment in Perth, Wellington, and across Ontario. Thank you.
Can I jump in?
Yep.
Thank you. First, I want to say, before I address the tariff specifically, I just want to make sure I stress that Premier Ford is not in charge of Canada, and he is not going to be negotiating. He's not going to be sitting down in a room with Trump. I mean, I know this is obvious to all of you here, but I just want to make sure we point that out, that our Prime Minister and the federal government will deal with that. Obviously, the government of Ontario will have a say in what we need to do to protect Ontarians and Ontario jobs. Amazing. Team approach. We're going to immediately create a tariff task force that works across party and jurisdictional lines to put Canadians first, Ontarians first, Perth Wellingtons first. We're going to create tax investment credits to unlock business investments in Ontario. Buy Ontario strategy, so we are buying local. I mentioned that with our farmers. A Protect Ontario fund for businesses that are going to be disproportionately affected by the tariffs. And aggressively diversify our trade partners and remove all these barriers to interprovincial trade so that Canada can come together to protect each other.
Okay, you made it under time this time.
It's first time. Yeah. First time. Nice.
Ashley, and then Jason.
I mean, we have an 8-point tariff plan, but we take it seriously, and we want to be as proactive as we can to protect our workers. But it's interesting, considering when I'm at the doors or when I'm talking on the phones, I think in the last week I've only heard from 3 people that were concerned. And of the 3 people, one was in my household as an auto worker, and the second one was in Listowel, where a Canadian/US business has laid off 10 people in the last week. But I haven't heard that from the provincial government, and I know they're in caretaker mode. So obviously we would prioritize our businesses and workers, and similar to my colleagues around, we're going to put Canada first, right across interprofessional trade, interprofessional labor.
Jason Davis.
Yeah, so this is definitely a scary time, and what I think is a lot scarier than the tariffs are the threats to our sovereignty. And again, this isn't a Doug Ford thing. We're going to have a federal election soon, and at that point we can deal with who is going to be dealing with Trump directly. What we would like to do is do a Buy Ontario program, as well as removing interprovincial barriers and creating funding for anyone that has their jobs threatened or removed due to tariffs, as well as increasing processing of our agriculture within Ontario, and starting a school lunch program for all kids that are suffering with food insecurity, and those school lunches will be made with 100% Ontario-grown products.
We're going to circle back to a topic we talked about earlier, housing, but this has a little bit of a twist. Whether you run a restaurant or a small business or a manufacturing facility, the biggest barrier right now is labor, and the biggest reason for labor shortage is the lack of available housing. What are each of your parties going to do to give municipalities more flexibility to create innovative housing solutions and accelerate the development of housing for average income families? Matthew, Ian, do you want to start with that, or Matthew? Matthew, start.
Matthew, after you.
Thanks, Ian.
My pleasure.
On housing, in particular for workers, in that aspect, we have taken some initiatives already, whether that was leading the charge to get the HST removed on purpose-built rentals. We heard from home builders across Ontario how that helped them build the next building next to it. If they're building, for example, 5 stories and building the next 5-story building, having that tax removed allowed them to build that purpose-built rental, ensuring more people can move up the housing continuum, whether you're living in socially assisted housing now, moving into rental, moving into ownership. I know our government will continue to work with our municipalities around communal water systems. I know its consultations, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing has been leading with our rural and northern municipalities to allow them to unlock housing in their communities as well. Thank you.
Jason?
Sure. So the last time that we had any official government program to build housing for Ontario was the year that the Backstreet Boys first formed. Okay? So that was 1993. So as much as the Conservatives and Liberals might say that they have this plan or that plan for housing, it's been 30 years. We plan on doing the Ontario Housing Plan. So this is a government agency that's sole purpose will be to work with nonprofits and municipalities to build what needs to be built within the boundaries of the municipalities. It is going to be built 60,000 units of supportive housing, 300,000 units of geared to income rent affordable housing, and I personally will not support the use of any municipal land or provincial dollars to build market housing. We have enough market housing. We increased the number of homes built from 67,500 to 100,000 in the year 2018. Yet from 2018 to 2022, housing costs went up by
Time's up.
202%.
Okay. Ashley?
All right. Housing to me includes housing and rental, so I'll include both. We're looking at eliminating the provincial land transfer tax for first-time home buyers, seniors downsizing, and not-for-profit home builders to help kick up that development there. Scrapping development charges on new middle-class housing. You know, part of the other jurisdiction is working collaboratively across all government levels as well, right? The municipalities, the province, and the feds. As much as the province says they've been there, you know, the feds have had to give money directly to the municipalities for building as well. So it's time for the province to step up and take their role there. And then when we look at renting, you know, introducing fair phased-in rent control. That's also a significant issue as we have turnovers, run evictions, things of that nature. And we would look at a rental emergency fund to support tenants that are having those financial emergencies.
Ian?
Thank you. Yeah, I saved the best for last. No. So we're gonna make sure that we build 2 million homes within the province, within urban boundaries, and not sprawl into our important farmland over the next 10 years. Those are going to directly influence our business's ability to attract and retain staff. We're also going to do it our way. That was kind of my attempt to get the Backstreet Boys in there, but I don't know. It was pretty lame, sorry.
That's pretty good.
We're going to build 250,000 new affordable nonprofit and co-op housing, co-op homes, and with 60,000 more that have wraparound permanent supports. We're going to make sure we support municipalities by reimbursing them for all the development fees that they've been forced to pay that has created a much higher tax bill for all the members of Stratford and St. Mary's and et cetera, across the province. We're going to implement an affordable community
And your
fund.
time is up.
Man, there's just so much.
Next, we're going to talk about transportation. As most of you know, yesterday the federal government announced a consortium to build a high-speed rail link from Quebec City to Toronto. At the same time, Stratford has lost its GO train service. And of course, transportation affects labor mobility and investment and growth. Specifically, what are each of you going to do to try to restore and improve passenger rail service to this riding? Ashley, we'll start with you.
Well, we're advocating for the two-way GO right across the board because we need it. It is our transportation, and in order to average, it would save on the traffic. It would save on that tunnel we've heard about. Let's make two-way transit.
Ian, we'll go this way on the table. I'll go you next.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, we need to make two-way GO a priority. We need to make sure that we're connecting communities together. We need to form transportation hubs so that we can connect close communities together to provide our businesses with workers that are living in other communities, perhaps, allowing them to have more affordable lives, perhaps, and then come to their places of employment. We need to make sure we're connected to larger centers like London, Kitchener-Waterloo, into the GTA through rail transit and other options. This is a people question. This comes back to the individual people living in communities. Why do we not have these systems in place so that our people can be more successful, can have better lives, can afford their lives better? Why are we not giving choices on how they want to move around the province and how they want to get to work and come home from work? Tunnels, great idea. Let's not have bike lanes because that's an option. Let's build Highway 413 because then we can save 30 seconds. So yeah, prioritizing transit, obviously, sorry for being flippant. Prioritizing transit is a huge help to our communities and our individuals.
Matthew.
The PC government has, and obviously if re-elected, will continue to make historic investments in public transit. $70 billion is our public transit across Ontario. Concerning the GO in Stratford, I support 100% it coming back. Please call Via Rail. The federal government and Via Rail, they own that section of the line, and this is what Metrolinx is dealing with across the entire network. Those challenges with that. I know one of the first phone calls I made was to Minister Sakaria around how do we work together to bring this back to Stratford, and we've had those conversations with the federal government and still waiting for the federal government to not just think about between Toronto and Quebec City and think about maybe Toronto to Windsor and some of the initiatives down here. Thank you.
And Jason.
Yeah, so we support, obviously, returning that GO rail back and forth. We also support, like I said earlier, 50% up towards the province so that all of our public transportation will now be 50% covered by the province and 50% by the municipality. This will help deal with a lot of those high property taxes we've been dealing with since we removed a lot of the municipal funding. And obviously, canceling the $10 billion highway that will save drivers 30 seconds, but really actually just improves the property value of land speculators that are at Doug Ford's daughter's wedding. And canceling the tunnel under Toronto, which is not really necessary when we're talking about interprovincial trade now because we can't rely on the US, and that goes this way, not up and down through Toronto. So maybe we shouldn't invest $1 trillion in that.
The next question has to do with mental health and addiction, which pervades our society, sadly, right now. And it's continued to lose funding. What will your party do to address this ongoing crisis? We'll start with Jason and work our way up.
Yeah, so we'd like to increase funding to mental health and addiction support. I'd also like to cancel the HUB program that's coming forth right now. I don't know who knows about this HUB program, but right now, if you offer mental health and addiction services, all of your funding is about to be cut and you will be shut down next month unless you agree to become a HUB. And under the new provincial regulations, if you are a HUB, you can no longer exchange needles. So great, we get to have a new AIDS epidemic, and hepatitis C gets to have a great comeback. Why? I don't know. I don't know why we're deciding to punish people. I personally have lost more friends than I can count on my hands to fentanyl. And these aren't addicts. These are people that got laced substances or something else, and I just never got to see again. My wife works in mental health and addiction. She's going for her PhD in it. And it's so terrible to know that the entire time we're working on this, we have a province that is actively working to make this more difficult for us to help.
Everybody has a pet project, regardless of what your party platform is. What are each of you most passionate about? The one thing that you would like to bring to the
Can I respond to the last question?
Oh, you didn't. Sorry. Okay.
Who responded? Just
Jason responded. Yeah, he was the only one.
That's okay. You're excited for the next question.
I've got a whole load of questions here. I can't wait to get through. So, thank you for that.
Okay, sorry everyone. Thank you for the very important question. I know on mental health and addictions with our CMHA, we have increased the base funding to amount, I believe it's 4%, for those organizations in the last provincial budget. We are investing $400 million in heart hubs across Ontario, providing those supports to those individuals that need it in those communities that have applied for those heart hubs. Also around homelessness, obviously the challenges individuals may face with homelessness, mental health and addictions usually is involved as well. The homelessness prevention program, we increased that by 40% and then also tied it 3 years, like each, you'll know 3 years out what you're getting. So it allows our housing providers to plan 3 years in advance. Before, it was a rolling sort of average. They didn't know necessarily what they'd get year from year. And so we're allowing them to invest in mental health counselors that can go out into the community. Thank you.
Ian.
Huge problem in all kinds of communities, rural, urban, doesn't matter. We need to immediately cover mental health and addiction under OHIP. We need to make sure that the government is paying for those supports. A much larger increase than 4% to base funding for community mental health services. We need integrated mental health. We need to integrate mental health into family health teams so we have a more supportive approach to a holistic approach to health. For our rural residents, we need to improve the ability to have virtual care as well. We need wait time reduction strategies. We need to ensure adequate mental health supports are available for first responders like police, paramedics, firefighters. And we need to treat this not as a criminal justice issue, but as a health and human rights issue. And we're not going to put people in jail because they're homeless or they have addictions or they have mental health issues. We're going to respect individuals and make sure we put people first. I'm going to use every second. Sorry.
It's a hard one to follow, man. Okay, so today we had a great announcement from the Ontario Liberal Party that we are also looking to bring in mental health under OHIP, mental health and addiction supports. We recognize that it's not just physical health that's included under OHIP. We would also look very similar to my colleagues at bringing supports and expanding our primary care, so evenings, weekends, virtual care. You know, we need to get people when they're ready and when they need support rather than waiting until it's convenient. This province has focused so much on beer and gambling. It's a wonder why we have a gambling and beer problem, I'm just saying. And you're going to sense a consistent theme here, but essentially it's working with all our collaborative partners. And the reason why is you look at the provincial hubs that are being put in place, and wouldn't it have been great if we talked to the nurses and the people who are actually involved, who had a voice at the table to put forward policy rather than making them change to a hub situation and not giving them or their patients the opportunity to give feedback.
I'm sorry for rudely interrupting 3 of the 4 candidates, but now back to the question.
Jason's answer was pretty good, but
There's a segue there. I want to talk to you about alcohol sales and online gambling. Someone asks, do you support alcohol sales in corner stores and online gambling, which has been promoted widely in Ontario? Why or why not? Who wants to start? Ashley.
I'll start. I mean, that's just fair right there. No, we look, we have to get the basics right. We have to get the priorities right. And we're seeing the challenges and the trauma coming through from the youth. That's directly from our leadership. If they're looking at us, we need to be leaders.
Yeah, I'll go next. So yeah, this is, again, this is a people issue. What are we trying to do for our people by canceling the liquor store contract early? What are we trying to do by making beer and alcohol more accessible, potentially to our youth? This is going to potentially create a whole host of problems in our communities. We need responsible, protected delivery of substances so that we can make sure our citizens are safe, that we control that. As for gambling, this is just another addiction issue that comes down to needing supports in place because we now have online gambling to support those people dealing with addiction, with mental health supports, with, we're going to build 60,000 homes with wraparound support. So if someone's lost all their money, they're on the street, we can get them back into housing and provide those addiction supports to get them out of those terrible situations that have ruined their lives.
Matthew?
The PC government ran 2 elections on the promise to bring choice and convenience to the people of Ontario, and we honored that promise to the people of Ontario. 5,000 convenience stores now in the province of Ontario have signed on for this program, employing new individuals, expanding their business and offerings to the customers that choose to do that. We also invested within that expansion, investments into our mental health and addictions sector as well to complement those changes. And then we also are going to see an increase in revenue to government coffers over the long term of this deal as well. Almost 1.16 billion over the coming years. We'll see an increase to our revenues for that change. Thank you.
And Jason.
Yeah, so I don't drink and I don't gamble, so I thought it was a really dumb way to waste $1 billion.
Well done.
Talk about, we knew that the election was going to come early more than saying, hey, we're going to pass this legislation while we're still in a majority government, but early enough that when we call the election, it'll be done before we could possibly lose government, right? They could have saved $1 billion by just waiting till later in their term, but they knew they were going to call this election early, so they wanted to get it passed, and it cost us $1 billion to do it. Absolutely ridiculous. How many good paying jobs at the beer store are gone? How many beer stores are closed that had one of the best recycling programs in the country are gone?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What is the one pet project or passionate project that you would like to see fulfilled if you were to be elected? I'll start with Ian this time.
Thank you. I don't need the glasses for this one. This is about bringing the people's voice back to Queen's Park, making sure that the issues and the serious issues and problems that we're facing, regardless of where we live in Perth, Wellington, or the province, making sure that those are taken seriously, taken back to Queen's Park, working on solutions for those problems, and listening to your voice. We have lost touch with the citizens and constituents in our ridings. We need to bring that voice back because you are the heart and soul of this province. Our communities are the foundation of everything good we have, and we need to prioritize that and not ignore people that are frustrated, people that are struggling. That is our job. There should be more difficult conversations than good ones. I should be dealing with more struggles than not. That is what I will do.
Go to Matthew next. The question is more about a project at a local level, like as opposed to a party platform. So,
Yeah, I'm going to talk to everybody
yeah.
at the local level.
Thanks, Craig. And thanks for the answer, Ian, too.
My pleasure.
On mine, I'll use an example of what I was able to achieve and mentioned in my bio, the Growing Agritourism Act. It was something I heard from local agritourism operators in Perth County and Wellington County as well, providing this risk liability protection to those individuals. I think of the Perth Farmhouse, Stephen Casey, who opened the first winery in Perth County, and the many other attractions that can complement the tourism that exists in Stratford and St. Mary's with the Baseball Hall of Fame, that they can complement that. And it's just supporting those small businesses to be able to do, again, what they do best is provide those services or products to those individuals. And I'll continue to listen to the community to see what is needed in those areas. Thank you.
Yes.
Housing. Me and I co-founded Stratford Affordable Housing Alliance. I'm the director of Mickinock Community Land Trust Housing. And the specific kind of housing I've been trying to do is home ownership within a community land trust model. It has been done for 30, 40 years in the US. It has never been done in Canada. If we can get it done here, I have developers that can do 1,200 square foot poured concrete homes for $250,000, move-in ready, done. $250,000 poured concrete will stand the test of time. If we do it through a land trust model, we can stop it from being used for long-term rentals, short-term rentals, and we can lock equity at 4.5% a year, so the affordable homes we built today will be affordable in 10 years, in 20 years, and in 30 years, and stop this constant growth that has left entire generations out of the market.
Ashley?
Well, it'll be no shocker to anyone. My pet project is to fix healthcare. We need to rebuild, we need to modernize. We were once so proud, and we still are, of our healthcare system, but we've lost its potential. And, you know, our staff and physicians, allied health, are no longer in the mental capacity that they once were. 63% of RPNs right now in 2025 want to leave the field. 63%. And when you think of where RPNs provide care on the frontline level, that's our seniors, that's our most vulnerable, that's an emerge, that's all over. In 2024, when we were tracking the ER closures in Perth, Wellington, you know, the top 10 all over the province, 2 are right here in our riding. This needs to be a priority, it needs to be discussed, and it's a passion for mine because we need to get the basics right.
Judging for the number of questions related to trade and investment and the economy, there's a lot of concern. So I'm going to merge a few questions together. What strategies do you propose to attract new business, industries, and investment in Perth, Wellington? What is the difference we can make? What's the attraction? How can we make a difference? And how can we become more competitive when lower taxes for corporations are coming in the United States? And coupled with that, attracting the families who will be employed by these companies. So business attraction and investment is the topic. What makes us different, and what would you do to attract business and investment to this riding? Matthew.
Thanks for the question. I know we'll continue to work to streamline approvals and ensuring that, as I mentioned earlier, become one of the most competitive places in North America to do business. Also, natural gas expansion, something I hear about, depending on what the business is key. Other infrastructure, as I've alluded to, a very ambitious infrastructure plan, $200 billion across Ontario, but ensuring that we have, whether that's hydro capacity, we're making significant investments in transmission lines, especially in this part of the province, going down to our auto sector in Windsor, Power Core in St. Thomas as well. So whether it's hydro infrastructure, natural gas infrastructure, ensuring we have that infrastructure to have those sites ready and available for any investment across the globe and support local companies such as New Tools, for example, in Stratford benefited from the Southwest Development Fund, and ensuring we are providing those supports locally so that they can grow and expand and hire more people locally for good paying jobs. Thank you.
Ashley, you go next.
It's about making life more affordable. It is to be competitive. We need to make sure that we are investing in our rural part of the riding, in our urban part of the riding. And we need to be working, again, collaboratively with municipalities, with the federal government, with the province at the table, and actually looking at how we can support our unique area for Perth Wellington.
Jason.
I don't know how we're supposed to attract anyone to come build businesses here when we can't afford to have employees. I mean, it's a 4-year wait list to get into childcare here. Who's going to come start a family? The day my son was born, I signed him up for childcare. In September, he starts school. Until we fix childcare, until we fix healthcare, until we fix having affordable housing, we can't get the staff we need to look at investment for more industry. No industry is going to open up here when we have 1.8% unemployment. We need to fix the affordability issues that can bring in working people before we can look at bringing in more industry. It just isn't going to happen. Sorry.
Ian.
First, I want to apologize. I thought you were trying to re-clarify the question for me. I'm very passionate about people, as I guess that came out. I didn't realize you were talking to Matthew, so my apologies. I completely misunderstood that situation. And I can admit when I make mistakes, so thank you.
I made a mistake too. I interrupted you guys earlier. So.
Yeah. Okay, we're all human, right? So Jason's absolutely correct, and this comes back to being passionate about people. We need to invest in people, and we can't grow our economy if we don't have the workforce, if we don't have proper places to live, if we're not dealing with our healthcare issues, our education issues, all the affordability issues. I mean, they're all so interconnected, and they all come back to the individual and the communities they live in. We are, as I mentioned, going to make Ontario a leader, though, in the $2 trillion global green economy, create hundreds of thousands of new jobs once we've dealt with housing and healthcare and all those issues by retrofitting 40% of existing homes and workplaces to net zero. We're going to give 60,000 people the skills and experience to work in the green economy through a year of free tuition at college in those programs, and much more. Thank you.
And the music ends that response. Thank you very much. Very interesting question here having to do with the climate crisis and agribusiness. The climate crisis is one of the most critical issues that affect all sectors, especially farmers and agriculture. What is your party doing to prioritize climate adaptation and innovative sustainable business solutions, including ag tech, to address climate and economic issues? We'll start at the far end this time and work our way up.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I'm blanking on what the specific policy for that was. So I don't believe we actually have any official specific policy for ag tech in the climate industry. I do know that we want to return the EV credit as well as reinstall EV chargers throughout the city and focus more on public transportation. But outside of that, I don't believe that we have any specific policy around ag tech in the climate model.
Okay. Matthew?
I know our government's invested $25 million in the Ag Tech Innovation Initiative. This allows farmers or food processors to invest in efficiencies, whether it's for supply chain, but it'll obviously be applied to climate initiatives as well. They are identifying that depending on their operation. We also have the fertilizer challenge. On the outset of the war in Ukraine, obviously fertilizer and the tariffs in that situation became very expensive, and so we were investing millions of dollars, over $2 million specifically, in these initiatives to allow our agribusinesses to diversify the fertilizer they may use on the farm from sources, in this case in Russia, but we'll continue to do that so they can continue to be the most innovative producers in all of Canada and the world.
Ian.
Yeah, our farmers are crucial to us, and they're going to be crucial when dealing with these Trump tariffs. We need to prioritize food security. We need to prioritize our local food systems and make sure that we're supporting our farmers and our growing capacity as much as possible. We will increase the investment in ag tech to support innovation in the food and farming sector, specifically including things such as like low carbon grain drying and greenhouse heating solutions. We want to bring back the powers of conservation authorities so that we can protect our agricultural land and our natural heritage from urban sprawl. We will freeze urban boundaries so we don't have to deal with urban sprawl. We must prioritize our local systems with farmers, protect their farms so that we have a future.
Ashley.
Thank you.
Similar to what others have mentioned, it's about prioritizing, and so we would look at making sure that the right tools are there to deal with challenges like inflation, supply chain disruptions, as well as recognizing, climate change and other, lost my thought there, also dealing with like disease process and disease prevention, things of that nature. But again, it's having the agricultural community at the table, having a voice in what they would want. I remember discussing in 2022 many of the same issues that are coming forward now. So, if there's a theme here, it's bringing everyone to the table so they have a voice and that they're being heard.
We've talked tonight a lot about some serious issues. I'd like to find out from each of you what makes you the proudest of representing Perth, Wellington, and when you visit other jurisdictions, what would you say as a champion of Perth, Wellington? Start with you, Ashley. Go this way. What makes you the most proud of Perth, Wellington, that you would be a champion for this riding?
What makes me the most proud is I live in the rural part of the riding. We have a lot to offer. We have a significant small business growth. We have significant growth in terms of what we're offering for events and community, and that makes me quite proud.
Ian.
There's so much to choose from. I mean, I could give some tourism examples with the festival, of course. I mean, that's a source of pride for a lot of people here in Stratford. But the riding as a whole, I think we have a lot of really conscientious people and community groups and council members that are really prioritizing our environmental needs. We have some wonderful organizations here in Stratford. I don't want to miss any, so I'm not going to name any, but that are prioritizing new ways of looking at things, partnering with municipal governments, trying to work collaboratively together to solve some of these issues that are going to create all kinds of economic and health burdens in our future. And it really makes me proud that Perth, Wellington, and Stratford specifically could be a significant leader in taking us forward with climate innovation and environmental innovation.
Matthew Ray.
Having the honor to represent the good people of Perth, Wellington at Queen's Park for the past almost 3 years, for me, it would be the welcoming communities. When I think of welcoming communities, I think of every community in Perth, Wellington. A lot of our communities have grown a lot over the past few years. Despite these changes, many of these communities are welcoming these new residents with open arms. I moved to a town I didn't grow up in and felt that warmth as well. And also, our communities help their neighbors and help one another. We've seen it recently with the snow we've been getting in all our communities, but ensuring that we're checking on one another and being there for each other, something unfortunately has been lost in our larger urban centers.
And lastly, Jason.
The people. I mean, no worries. That's part of the reason why I chose this as the place to raise my family, is the people. Like, I love it here. When I walk down the street, everyone that you pass will say, hi, how are you? How's it going? It was a culture shock for my wife when I moved her here from Niagara. She got so used to it when she went back to Niagara to visit. At one point, she tried to say hi to people on the street, and they thought she was going to rob her. The people here, no matter what our political differences are or beliefs or anything else, when you run into them on the street, they're perfectly capable. You can sit down and have a 5-minute conversation with just anyone you meet, and it's always friendly and always lovely. And that's something that you just don't get other places.
I want to thank all the people for supplying the great questions from the floor. And if there are no more questions, we're going to wrap this up. And each candidate has 2 minutes to provide some closing remarks. And we'll start at the far end of the table and move our way up here. 2 minutes.
Okay, so in my 2 minutes, I'm just going to go over a whole bunch of things that we didn't really get to talk about here. If you didn't notice, I don't have any notes here. I don't have a pen. I don't have a paper. I'm just kind of going off my mind, because when you're talking about things that matter to you, they should all be here, and they shouldn't need to be checking your books on them. Right off the bat, we are moving towards privatizing our healthcare. We need to stop that. It was the Liberals in 2017 that first passed to allow private clinics, and the Ford government has moved us further and further towards private clinics. One private clinic directly attached to Ford's own administration had an increase of 287% in funding, while the rest of the hospitals are underfunded. We are paying twice as much for surgeries through private hospitals through OHIP as we are for others. Imagine if we doubled funding to our public systems. Maybe our emergency rooms wouldn't be closing. Education, we are $1,500 short on what we need for each kid. There are 70,000 kids currently waiting on the wait list for autism. We have failed those children. We had a toddler die in a hallway waiting for medicine. Hallway medicine has doubled. We currently have a 4-year wait list, as I said, for childcare. That is unacceptable. We also have had, let's see, I'm trying to run through this really quickly here. Outside of that, we also have had massive underfunding in our post-secondary system. Right now, most of those schools are closing because they've been relying on international students to fill them. We had a 40% of the 435,000 international students in 2024 alone went to Ontario. From 2017 to 2021, we had an 82% increase in international students since the federal government has lowered that number. Now our universities are closing and they don't know where they're going to get their funding from. We have destroyed the best education system in the world. Policies for the NDP we didn't get to touch on. One would be the school lunch program filled with Ontario-based foods. Another one that we haven't been able to talk about is the 60,000 units of supportive housing. That's what we really need for our homeless. Homelessness has doubled in the last few years. We are now at 81,000 homeless.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank
That's
you.
2 minutes. Matthew Ray.
Thank you again to the Stratford Chamber of Commerce, myself, Craig, for doing a great job this evening, and to the businesses that sponsored this evening as well, and hosting this all candidates debate. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, it's been an honor to represent the good people of Perth Wellington at Queen's Park for almost 3 years now. If re-elected, I'll continue to speak up for everyone in Perth Wellington, working to keep costs down and continuing to invest in our rural communities and protecting our small and large businesses from Trump's tariffs. The threat from the south is probably the most existential crisis we are facing as a nation since we became a nation many, many years ago. And it's going to take a strong leadership and to ensure we stand up for that and protect our businesses and our families. If re-elected, a PC government will continue to rebuild our economy, protect our workers, keeping us competitive, ensuring we're delivering better care for all Ontarians as well. On February 27th, I ask for your support to protect our families, our workers, and our businesses, and I once again ask for your support to represent you at Queen's Park. Thank you.
Ian Morton.
It's been a great evening of sharing, so thank you to Ballinron Entertainment, Craig, Stratford and District Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity to reach out to the voters that have attended tonight, and I'm grateful for Rogers and Whiteman to be able to connect with the entirety of Perth Wellington. I'm sure everybody is tuned in. So what have we heard tonight? We've heard that some people are in touch with your needs, are in touch with the issues. Some people care. Some people want a better future for you. The Green Party has strong policies to prioritize people so that we can accelerate Ontario into a stronger economic position, create jobs, prioritize affordability and housing, ensuring that our social institutions like healthcare, education are built back up to where they were and stronger from there. To put our communities first in order to strengthen our ability to deal with internal and external pressures. We need sustained change in Perth, Wellington. The only way to approach this election is to look at strategy, long-term strategy. We need to work together to amplify the green ideals of people and communities and connecting each other. We can see it already happening in places in the province. We can see it in Guelph with our leader, Mike Schreiner, in Kitchener Centre with Ashlyn Clancy, and we can see the green vote rising across the province. We have local champions all over that are connected to their people in their riding, that are championing them and putting them first. That is what I will do. This is a long-term fight for me. I'm going to be around for several elections. I promise that during that time I will be here to listen to you and your concerns and your issues, to help deal with your struggles, prioritize your well-being and the well-being of your neighbors and families and friends. If you vote for me, I will not take that vote and that honor for granted. You will know that I care deeply. This is why I became a teacher, why I volunteer so much. I care about you and your community, about creating a better life for you tomorrow than yesterday.
Okay.
Am I done?
Yes.
I didn't see the sign at all.
Little birdie, the birdie sang.
Where were you? Yeah.
Okay.
Vote green.
All right. Ashley Fox.
Well, it's hard to follow up. All right. Thank you to the Stratford Chamber as well. Thank you, Craig, for moderating. And thank you to the volunteers and the sponsors. It takes a village to create an event like this. Thank you, more importantly, for coming. It's great to be informed, but if you're like me and your wrap-up thoughts are kind of thinking, well, the province has been incredibly thoughtful, proactive, and there doesn't seem to be any concerns in Ontario at all, except for, protecting Ontario. We have a $189 million election before us, one that didn't need to be called with a majority government. $3.4 billion we spent to send ourselves a $200 rebate check right across the board. I didn't call this election, but we have an opportunity. I'm running because people across party lines, across Perth, Wellington, asked me to reach out and amplify their voice. After 7 years, it's pretty evident the priorities have not been on us. And it's time for a change. So if you believe we deserve better, elect me to represent you as your MPP and ensure that your voice is heard, not just listened to, at Queen's Park, where I'll continue to fight for all of us, as I already have. Visit ashleyfox.ontarioliberal.ca if you'd like to learn more about our plan, but I humbly ask for your vote on the 27th.
Well, thanks to all of you, and thanks to the Chamber of Commerce for putting this event together. It's not possible without the support of the sponsors and the volunteers. The title partner is Whiteman Telecom. The debate champions Avencia Financial Group and Tim Ziegler Wealth Management. Our timekeepers, 1 Point, and our community partner, Elliott Motors. These events are important. When you look around the world and see democracy in retreat, people put down their lives for the chance to vote. And I'm just going to put out that call that I mentioned off the top. We had 49.9% people in this riding, eligible voters, voting last time. So try to get out there and tell anybody you speak to that everybody's vote matters, and it's a one week from today. So thank you all for coming. The hockey game is only 30 minutes in, and I'm sure there's going to be many brawls, and so it'll last if you'll get home in time to watch the rest of the game. Thank you for the Chamber for inviting me to moderate, and I'm sure the candidates will be sticking around for a little bit. You can mix and mingle and ask some questions that may not have been addressed, but thanks again.